All right, so welcome to part 5 of our Santa tutorial. So in this video, let's go ahead and take the character we unwrapped in the previous video where we created all the UVs and run it through Substance Painter, just create kind of a simple textures for this guy, simple PBR textures, right? And the process for that, right? So where I left off is right here. I have the Santa, and once again, hopefully you are following these videos. So there's going to be the UV layout for this guy. In the previous video, we already exported out the high version. And one of the important things that you want to make sure if you are new to 3D, you just want to make sure that the characters of the low and high poly reside in the exact same space. That's literally the entire concept of baking, is that it's baking by overlapping the two meshes together. So if I unhide my high, right, you can see that it's residing in the exact same space, right? So the low poly is essentially a frame that is, a low poly version of the high one. And all the detail from the high one will be baked to the low, right? That's kind of the basic baking 101 understanding. So it's really important that you make sure that they are residing in the perfect place, whether you're doing it in ZBrush, Blender, or Maya, whatever you're doing, both of these must be in the same space, right? That's the only way you can get clean, nice baking. And of course, your UVs need to be nice as well. You don't have any overlapping issues or stretching issues. Once you are ready, the next thing you want to do is just export your high one, which I already did. So let me go ahead and hide that. And now I just need to export this one. I'm going to go to File, Export. And you know what? This one I'm going to actually save as an FBX file. They don't need to be the same. And I'm going to say Santa underscore low and say export. The reason I'm saying that is because my high one was an OBJ file. And there's really absolutely no difference whatsoever. So it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to say export. And the reason I like to use OBJ for really high ones is because for some reason, personally, on my computer, I'm using this iMac here. Sometimes if I use high density models with FBX, my computer doesn't like that. So that's the reason a lot of times I'll use OBJs, because it just handles it for some reason on my machine a little bit better. So, but again, it doesn't really matter. All right, so now since we have both of these exported, let's jump into Substance Painter. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, New, and let's look at these. So the template by default is set up to this PBR metallic roughness. This is fine. The document resolution, I usually for game characters, I like to set it to 2K. I think is a nice resolution. If you're making a mobile game, 1K is probably sufficient as well. But I'm just going to set it to 2. And then you don't want to have unwrap on, auto unwrap, right? Because we unwrapped all of that. And now we just have to select our file. So in my case, it's going to be santalow.fbx. I'm going to say open. All right, so this is how the Santa comes in. And one important thing that you want to review when at this stage is you just want to make sure that you like your soft and hard edges in the preview right here. And you want to make sure that you don't have any issues where you need to go back into your 3D package and just modify some of the edges, right? So I'm perfectly happy with these. I can see that my belt has sharp edges, my buckle has sharp edges. Everything else is kind of round, and it just looks good, right? It looks good even before you put textures on. So that's super important. All right, so once we are happy with all of that, let's move on to the next step, which is going to be baking, right? So I'm going to go to Texture Set Settings, and I'm going to say Bake Mesh Maps. I'm going to click on that button. All right, and in here, if you see something like this is insane. I'm going to uncheck that. It says Baking Visualizations. I don't really want that. That is going to drive me nuts. So I think that is what I need. So now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to switch it to 2K. And of course, here's the high poly parameters. Make sure that we import our high character. In my case, it's going to be santahigh.obj. I'm going to say open. And the only other thing that I like to do is anti-aliasing. I just like to switch it to even 4. If you have a fast machine, you can do 16. Match doesn't really matter. We don't really have a match. and everything else looks really good, right? So let's go ahead and just say bake. All right, once the bake finishes, I'm gonna say return to painting mode, and let's review our character. This is what it looks like. If I spin my character, I see that I don't really have any issues, you know, black spots or any kind of strangeness. Everything looks very clean and nice. And the one thing I could say for anyone who is new to this, the reason this is clean is because our overlay between the high and the low, I showed you that in Maya, was very clean, very precise, right? We didn't have any, you know, strange gaps or spots. Everything, the low mesh nicely kind of hugged the high one. And that's the reason this bake looks very nice. And the other one is obviously the UVs. So because the UVs are clean, they're spaced well, nothing is overlapping. That's the reason this looks nice and clean. So as long as you kind of follow those two rules, you'll always have amazing results, right? So keep that in mind. All right, so for now, let's go ahead and just go into a 3D mode. And this is not going to be one of those super advanced Substance Painter tutorials. Let's just, you know, cover the basics. We don't want to spend hours in here. We just want to do something nice and clean and simple. This is a simple cartoon character, so let's just have fun, right? All right, so to get started, I'm going to delete the default material, and let me just start by inserting the fill, right? And that's going to be just kind of a starting base color. So in the beginning, let's just start with a black color, and let's just decide which elements of our character are black. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to go to the base color, and let's just simply select a black color. I'm going to go to blue and do like a little bit like a grayish bluish color. And the reason we can do that is because then that will allow us some room if we ever wanted to do highlights or painting to go lighter black or darker black, right? So you want to stay somewhere in here, usually for game characters, for like a dark black color. All right, so I'm gonna go with that, and maybe just even make it a little bit lighter. All right, and that's gonna be my base color. We can decide on the roughness, right? We don't want something like this is not a car. We probably want something that has just a little bit of roughness. I'm gonna go to like, I don't know, let's do 0.7. I think that feels pretty good to me. I like that. One other thing that I like to do personally is I like to go into my environment map and change it to glazed. I just feel like this is a little bit better to see. I also like turn on shadows actually and set them kind of low. The reason I like to do that is because if this is a game character, he's going to be in a game environment, which means usually, unless you bake shadows, right, the shadows are going to be present in the game engine. So it's important to see how the textures are going to look, right? So that's kind of important, and let's go ahead and leave that on, right? All right, so now since everything is kind of a base black, let's just keep growing our selection. Next one up is going to be the next layer, which is going to be next fill layer, and maybe we can choose something like the white color, and maybe we don't want to do, you know, let's do something maybe in this neighborhood, just so it gives us kind of a warmer white color versus something like this, right? So I'm gonna do something along these lines, and now what I can do is let's go ahead and call this white. I'm gonna right click on this and let's do a black mask, right? And now we just need to tell Substance Painter which one of these elements are gonna be white. So to do that, I'm gonna go right here into Polygon Fill. Let's select Chunk Fill, or we can select Mesh Fill. Both of these will work. Let's try with the actually UV one first, right? And I know that this is going to be my fur. That's going to be white, right? This one here is going to be white. And the reason I'm able to select these is because these are separate UVs, right? So I'm doing a UV fill based on the UVs that we did in Maya, right? So again, for anyone who is new, as long as these things are separate in your UVs, right, in your textures, you can just fill them in and have full control. So that's very easy and pretty awesome, right? So I'm gonna do the same thing with the beard, select his mustache. Let's go ahead and grab the eyebrows, select the eyes for sure, the fur, and this thing in the back. and of course this and this. All right, all of that is going to be white. The next color, I think it should be red. So let's go ahead and add another one. Double click on this and let's do a red color. And now because our black color has the roughness specified, and this is in the bottom, right? This roughness could technically be applied to all of these layers up here, which means if you select this, you don't really need height and roughness and metal and normal all activated for this layer, because black one, the base one, already has all of them, and we kind of dialed this in already, right? So one thing we could do is come here, hold on the Alt key, and just deactivate everything else except just the color. And that just means the white will be applied to this, and it's going to use the roughness setting from the layer below, right? So hopefully that makes sense. And I could do the same thing with this one. Let's select this one, hold on the Alt key, uncheck everything. Let's go into here and let's just select like a nice deep red color for our Santa. Maybe something along these lines I think is great. I'm looking right here. I'm pretty happy with this. I think it's fine. Maybe just make it a little brighter. And the nice thing about Substance Painter is that you can adjust any of these colors at any time. So very easy. So I'm going to right click, do a black mask here as well, and use the same technique to select the red color. So it's going to be the jacket, the pants, of course the hat, and probably the mittens as well, right? Both the bottom and the top. And we'll deal with the belt in a second. And of course he needs skin, but everything else is looking pretty good. Let's go into our paintbrush and take a look. All right, so next let's go ahead and choose the skin color. I'm gonna go to another one and let's just do something like skin. Now for the skin color, same thing. I'm gonna select this layer, hold on the Alt key, click on the color, and let's go into the color. And you can of course decide what color skin you want for your character. I'm just gonna kind of go for the classic cartoon, kind of a warm beige, something like this. I think is pretty nice. So again, I'm looking right here. You can also use these, of course. We can make them darker or lighter, whatever you want to do. I think something along these lines is good to start with. Let's go ahead and do the same thing. Right click, black mask, select our fill tool, and let's just select the body. And I'm realizing I forgot to color this, so that's okay. I can jump back into my white layer under the mask setting and just simply click on both of these, right? And I can also see I forgot the mustache. All right, so that's pretty cool, and he already looks really awesome, and we didn't really do much. I think that's looking really nice. I would love to make this buckle gold, right? And honestly, we did not separate the UVs for this, so we can't just simply use the fill color to do that, right? This is going to be a little more tricky, and maybe that's a good thing, because then we can explore and see what would be the technique of coloring something if it doesn't have separate UVs, right? So let's do this. Let's go into our search, and in here under smart materials, let me just type in gold and see what I have. So I have this gold armor and gold damaged, right? Let's say I want to use this gold damage on this buckle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this and drag it above, and now I have something like this. I don't really want it applied everywhere, although he looks really cool as a golden Santa. Almost looks like a trophy. Just have to like lower his arms. But let's say I don't really want this gold to be so beat up. It looks, well, just says damage, right? So I can see the roughness stains is the one that has all this beat up stuff. I don't really want that. The grain, I actually don't mind the grain, because I'm only looking, keep in mind, at the buckle, right? Nothing else. So that's okay, and I kind of like everything else, right? All right, so how do I isolate this buckle? I'm gonna obviously right-click and do a black mask, and now I just need to tell Substance Painter that this buckle is the only thing that needs to be gold, right? So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to polygon fill, and instead of using UV chunk fill, let's use something different. Let's use something like the polygon fill. And what I can do is I can just very quickly go around, and because this is low poly, it's going to be so easy. Essentially, I just need to select all the polygons that need to be gold. Alright, once you finish, just review your work from every angle. Make sure you're not missing anything. This thing right here, because this is one piece, I could just use mesh fill, right? Mesh fill means grab the entire object. So if I click on it, it's going to grab the entire thing, right? Because this is a separate mesh. And that was pretty easy to do. And now we have this awesome gold buckle on the black belt. And you know, one thing that we could argue that maybe he could use is some holes in the belt, right? Let's do that. How do we add some holes in the belt? So I'm gonna add a, let's add a layer. So it's gonna be a simple layer. And I'm gonna come down here and I just want the height. So I'm gonna press Alt, let's click on height and click on the normal. So these are the only two. And what I'm gonna do is let's just go to the right, somewhere like 0.75. And let's grab our brush, go into a brush. Look, I'm gonna exit this gold thing. I'm gonna go into the brushes, and the hole that I'm gonna make could probably be, I could try to use soft brush and see what that looks like. Let's just make it a little bit smaller. If I try to click here, you can see what that looks like. You can decide if that's something you like, the way it looks. We can also, of course, go this way and click on it, and now it looks like it's being pressed in, versus going this way where it looks like it's kind of raised up, right? You can see the difference. So obviously I want to go, let me undo these. I'm going to go this way. So maybe I'll give them a hole here and maybe just do one more here. All right, and that's just going to give a nice little detail, not too much, still keeping it super simple. All right, what else can we do? Another thing we can do is let's go ahead and add a layer. And in here, I'm going to do Alt, click on the color. I'm going to right click on this and let me go into something called filter. Alt click on this, click on the actual filter. And in here, let's select something called baked stylized lighting. Let's go ahead and select that. And now if I go into the sky, sun's intensity, I can change the direction of this if I wanted to. Maybe my stylized light is coming from the top. So that's totally up to you. You can, of course, move these around and see what you like. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to bake this light into the actual texture. And that is going to be pretty awesome, right? So you can just kind of find the lighting that you like. Maybe you want the top of the character to be lighter and then have some of this darkness to be kind of the shadow, right? I kind of like that. I think that looks pretty cool. You can also see that there's some specular highlights right here on his shoes, for example. I can go into the output and instead of saying diffuse and specular, I could just say diffuse only. And did you see those little things disappeared? So you can decide if you want to bake the specular highlights into the texture or not, right? So that's totally up to you. But let's say you can also, of course, check, pick the lights. Right now it's kind of this warm sun color. You have this cool color. All of that you can control. But one thing that I need to do is I'm just going to switch it from normal to overlay. And by doing that, you can see how automatically I just created all these cool shadows in my paint, right? And of course, I don't have to keep it at 100%. I can actually dial this down. This is how it looks without it. And if I start dialing this back up, you can see how I can slowly add a little shadow to my character. So maybe, I could go to something like 60. And you can see the difference before and after. So it just adds a little something, right? If you wanted to see what the texture looks like with these all baked in, instead of just looking at the material, you can look at the base color. And this is how it's going to look if you put it in the game with just the base color, without any other maps. So you don't have, normal maps, you don't have roughness maps. It's just the base color. So everything right here that you're seeing here is all baked in. And he looks pretty awesome for a game model, I think. Let's go ahead and go back into the material. And holding down the shift and right clicking, you can also change the lights, which is really nice. One other thing that I would like to do before we call him done, Let's go ahead and give him maybe a couple highlights on his eyes, just kind of a cartoony effect. Let's name this. This was our belt detail, which we did the holes, right? This is going to be our baked light. If I want to do some highlights on his eyes, I can always, let's go ahead and go below the bake light and add a, let's add another layer, right? And in here, I'm going to press Alt, click on the color. And this time I am going to go all the way to the white. And let me choose a brush. I'll just do a hard brush. Change the size of the brush. And what we can do is we can just simply click on our eye and create almost like a little highlight effect. And maybe that's a little bit too big, but I can add one here and add one here. And you don't have to do that, but it's a cool little touch, I think, for a cartoon character. I kind of like that. And let's do it. Go ahead and call this eye reflection. Very nice. Next, let's add another layer. And in this layer, let's just give him some color to his cheeks. So I'm going to do, let's do skin detail, right? And I'm just painting. So I'm going to go back into my brush. Let's select the soft brush this time. And let's choose the color red for to add some blood into his skin. And of course, we don't really want it to be at 100%, right? We don't want something like this. That's a little bit too much. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to turn on my symmetry. I want to make sure that I'm going to do this on both sides. And I'm going to turn the flow down, way down to like 10. And let's just kind of very carefully add a little rosy cheeks. And maybe just give him something on the nose. And you know what? I think the ears could use something as well. So I'm just literally just clicking and just adding. He's been in the cold, right? I think that looks really good. Now, the nice thing about skin detail, because it's in its own layer, keep in mind you can always come here and adjust it. So this is without it, and then you can kind of gradually dialing it in. Maybe this is a little too much. Maybe I want to do, you know, I'll do 85. So it's a little more subtle. Okay, so that's a nice touch. Let's go ahead and jump out of symmetry and take a look. And we can do the same thing with the jacket if you want to add a little highlights, do a little painting. You can see I have a little reflection right there in the mitten. But that's pretty much it. I think as far as the texture goes, I think that's as far as I'm going to take it. I'm kind of very happy with this. It's nice, clean, and simple. And again, if I look at the base color, that's going to be the base color texture, and this is going to be all the normal detail, all the roughness settings, and everything else, right? And if we want to do a quick preview to see what that might look like, you know, in game engine like Unreal or Unity, you can always jump into iRay. And in here, it's up to you if you want to look at the, you know, this image in the back, or if you want to turn that off. If you want to turn that off, you can always click on, let's click on this button right here. It's called Display Settings. And in here you have something called clear color, so I can activate that. And you can see that's kind of funny. It looks like my Santa is floating. That's of course going to be the Y value of the ground, right? And I can of course control this, so I can move this closer to him. That probably would make a little more sense. All right, I can also decide on the color of the background. I'm just doing this for preview, so it doesn't really matter what this is. I'm just kind of playing around at this point. But I'm just showing you some of the things you can control. The other thing that you might want to control if you come back, let me close this. By default, this is done already. Usually I just change this to like 10 minutes, and that will render out an image, and you can just save it. If you save it as a PNG, it will be transparent. All of that is important, right? You can come here and go up here and change the lighting, you know, if you want to see Santa with different environment lights. You can of course change the environment rotation. None of that really matters, I guess, as long, maybe if you're taking a screenshot or something, but you know, this is going to be exported to, we're going to export all this to Maya anyways. So I'm going to go back into the painting mode. and let's take a look. So that's pretty much it. I think that's going to be the end of this video. I think in the next video, let's go ahead and export our textures. Obviously, to export them, you just go to Export Textures, and if you click on your Santa or whatever the character you have the list of exporting materials. So it's going to be a base color, emissive, which we don't really even have, height, normal, right? All of these are going to be exported as part of this template right here, a PBR template. So you can choose the image format, and of course the size. Again, 2K I think is good. Personally, this is just my own preference. I like to switch it to default background color. That's just something I do because I like to see the background color in the texture, and then you just export that out, right? So once you export it out, in the next video, let's go ahead and apply it in Maya, and then we can also rig our character and maybe add a funny, silly animation of some sort. All right, so thank you for joining me today. I hope you are having fun. I would appreciate if anyone is following these, if you go to, there's a link below this video to my Discord channel, and maybe post a screenshot of work in progress. That would be really cool to see. But either way, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.